Let's be clear about one thing from the start. This isn't about finding Lucifer. It's about understanding the cage they built for him. If the Vatican archives are to be believed, the ones they don't show the public, then Lucifer isn't in a pit in hell. He is, according to certain sealed manuscripts, contained, physically, here on earth, beneath the oldest foundations of Rome. No one knows its official name. The men who designed it took that secret to their graves. The institution that commissioned it denies it exists. But if you follow the clues, the architectural inconsistencies in the Vatican's own medieval foundations, the terrified confessions of Renaissance exorcists, the single line in a ledger from 1588 that lists payment for ironwork for the secondary seal anteroom project, you find a blueprint. And that blueprint shows a corridor. It leads down, deep beneath the Basilica, through 3 successive vaults inscribed with psalms, and at the very end, just before the final door, a door described only as the unmoving gate, the corridor widens. It opens into a perfect circle of space. They didn't have to dig this room. It was deliberate. It was the first thing they built. This is not a hallway. This is a destination. They call it the antechamber, and it contains only 2 things. First, a throne, carved from a single block of stone so black it drinks the light. It is not decorative. It is functional. It is massive. Its back is straight. Its arms are rigid. It faces the entrance. If you walk in, it is looking at you. This is not a seat for meditation. This is a seat for judgment. Whoever sits here commands the room. They see whoever enters. They control the approach. This throne was placed here for a purpose. It was meant to be occupied. So where is the occupant? The throne is empty. It has always been empty. The dust on its seat is undisturbed. This is the first question. Why build a throne of solid stone in the most secret place on earth and leave it vacant? Unless the vacancy is the point. Unless the emptiness is a warning or a waiting. Second, a tomb, directly opposite the throne, set into the wall. It is smaller than a standard sarcophagus. It is made of a dull, lead-colored metal, fused directly into the bedrock. It is featureless, except for its surface. Covering every inch are markings. They are not crosses. They are not prayers. They are intricate geometric patterns. Lines within circles. Strange, angular symbols. 72 distinct designs. If you compare them to the most forbidden book in the Vatican's own collection, the Ars Goetia, the match is exact. These are the seals of the 72 Goetic demons. King Paimon, President Marbas, Duke Dantalion. Their true names, written in sigil form, are etched into this tomb. The church that burned this book used its contents to seal this box. This is not a holy seal. This is a demonic lock. They are using the power of the demons themselves as a containment field. This means what is inside is not affected by holy water. It is not repelled by scripture. It is something that responds only to a darker frequency, something that understands pact and hierarchy. So you have to ask, what is in that tomb? It is not large enough for a man, or for a set of bones, or for something that has no bones at all. Is it a weapon? A source of power Lucifer brought with him into his imprisonment, and the church stole and locked away in its own cage. Is it a part of him? Something he could not be allowed to keep? Or is it something else? Something they made. A failed attempt to create something in his image. A prototype for a being that could bridge the gap between the divine and the damned. The small tomb and the empty throne are connected. They face each other. One is a seat of power. The other is a sealed source. The architecture screams a relationship. The throne is for the master. The tomb holds the key. Or the throne is the lock, and the tomb holds the prize. But there is a third element the blueprints don't show. The atmosphere. The air in this room, according to a single account from a Swiss guard who claimed his grandfather stood watch there in the 1920s, is cold, a dry, static cold, and it is silent. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of absorption. A silence so complete it feels like pressure. Sound does not echo. It dies. This room was designed to swallow noise, to swallow light, to swallow hope. It is a void. And into this void, they placed a throne that commands nothing, and a tomb that contains an unknown. The function of this room is now obvious. It is a filter. It is a test. Before any soul, any entity, any power reaches the final door to Lucifer's cell, it must pass through here. It must face the empty judgment of the throne. It must feel the pull of the demon-sealed tomb. The room measures you. It asks a question without words. Who are you to approach this place? Are you a supplicant? Then the throne judges you unworthy. Are you a thief? Then the tomb's sigils react to your intent. Are you the heir? Then perhaps the throne is yours and the tomb opens. This is the great, unsettling truth of the antechamber. It is not just a room. It is a mechanism. It is the first and most clever part of Lucifer's prison. His cell may hold his body, but this room holds his legacy. It holds the idea of what comes next. The empty throne is a promise of a kingdom with no king. The sealed tomb is the inheritance, locked away. Together, they are a torment crafted for a being of infinite pride. He is told, every second of eternity, your reign ends with you. Your future is in that box, and you will never reach it. We will never see this room, but its existence changes everything. Because if this antechamber is real, then the imprisonment of the devil was not an act of holy vengeance. It was a project, a calculated architectural and psychological project. They didn't just throw him in a hole. They built a system around him. And the most terrifying part of that system is the empty room next door, waiting. The question is no longer, where is Lucifer? The question is, what were they preparing for? And why does the preparation feel so incomplete? The throne is still empty. The tomb is still sealed. The room is waiting. And anything built to wait is waiting for something. We have established the room, the throne, the tomb, the seals. Now we must ask the only question that matters. What is the mechanism? How does it work? This is not a museum. It is not a shrine. Every element in that circular space is functional. It is a machine made of stone, sigils, and intent. To understand the prison, you must understand its first and most critical component. Let's start with the seals, the 72 Goetic sigils. They are not carved lightly. They are not artistic. They are incised with precision. Their lines meeting at perfect angles, their circles unbroken. They form a lattice, a net over the tomb. This is not haphazard. This is a binding matrix. In the study of demonology, a sigil is not just a symbol. It is a true name compressed into a shape. It is a handle on a specific consciousness, on a specific power. To etch the sigil of the demon Marbus onto a container is to invoke Marbus's own authority over what is inside. You are using the demon's name to command the space it occupies. So the Vatican, in this one act, performed a profound and blasphemous piece of magic. They took the 72 most powerful sub-princes of hell, and they used their own signatory authority to lock a box. Think of it as a corporate seal, a notary's stamp. But for the infernal, this tells us two concrete facts. Fact 1, whatever is in that tomb is of a nature that falls under the jurisdiction of these demons. It is part of their hierarchy. It answers to them, or it is made from them. Fact 2, the church was not relying on God's power to secure this tomb. They were relying on the chain of command of the enemy. This is a cage within the cage, operating on its own dark logic. Now look at the placement. The tomb is set into the wall directly opposite the throne, a straight line of sight. If you sit on that throne, you are looking directly at the tomb. The throne is the control point. It is the observation post. It is the only place in the room from which the entire matrix of seals can be viewed at once. From any other angle, the sigils distort. From the throne, they align. This is by design. The occupant of the throne is meant to monitor the tomb. not to guard it from outsiders, but to observe the lock itself, to ensure the seals hold, or to watch for a change in their state. This leads us to the silence, the reported absolute sound-absorbing silence of the room. This is not a natural phenomenon. It is an engineered condition. Silence is a vacuum. It is an absence. In ritual magic, silence is not passive. It is a prepared space. It is a blank slate. It is the quiet before a word of power is spoken. The silence in that room serves a function. It prevents interference. It stops stray prayers, stray thoughts, stray vibrations from the world above from reaching the seals. The seals exist in a perfect, silent vacuum, so that only one thing can affect them: direct will from the observation point, from the throne. So we can now see the initial function. The room is a monitoring station, a supernatural panopticon. The throne is for the warden. The warden's sole duty is to sit in silence and watch the seals on the tomb. If a seal flickers, if the power of, say, Duke Dantalion wanes, the warden would know. The system is built so that the warden's focused attention from that specific seat is part of the locking mechanism. The silence focuses that attention. But here is the rupture in the logic. The throne is empty. There is no warden. The system is operating without its key component. The silent, observing consciousness is absent. So how do the seals hold? They must be self-sustaining, or they are drawing power from another source. The only other source in the vicinity is what lies beyond the final door. The primary cell. This is the first real inference of a connection. The tomb's seals are not independent. They are parasitic. They draw their sustaining power from the entity in the main vault. They are plugged into Lucifer. His presence, his immobilized power, is the energy that keeps the Goetic sigils active. His eternal imprisonment fuels the lock on the smaller tomb. This means the tomb's contents are so vitally important that ensuring its security is wired directly into the central purpose of the entire facility, containing the Lightbringer. If he weakens, the seals weaken. If the seals break, it is a signal that he has broken. The tomb is a canary in the coal mine of hell. But this creates a terrifying paradox. The thing in the tomb is secured by the power of the being it is meant to be separate from. They are linked. This was not a containment of two separate things. This was the creation of a system, a circuit. The throne is the missing piece in that circuit. The intended warden was not just a guard. He was a regulator, a living fuse. His job was to sit on that throne and manage the flow of power from the main cell to the seals, to step down the voltage, to interpret the signals, to be the buffer between Lucifer and his property. Without the warden, the system runs automatically. The power flows directly, raw and unchecked. The seals are potent, but brittle. They are under maximum stress. The silence in the room is now the silence of a machine operating at red line, with no one at the controls. It is the hum of a deadly current, absorbed by the stones. So we arrive at the new, more urgent set of questions. Who was the warden meant to be? A pope, a saint, a damned soul given a purpose. Why was the position never filled? Was the candidate never found? Or was the candidate found and then lost? Is the emptiness of the throne not a planning error, but evidence of a failure? A failure that forced them to resort to this automatic, dangerous direct link. And the final, most severe question: if the seals are tied to Lucifer's own vitality, what happens if what is in the tomb ever gets out? Does it break the circuit? Does it shut him down? Or does it complete a connection they were desperately trying to prevent? The empty throne is not a mystery. It is an alarm. It is a flashing red light that has been ignored for centuries. The system is active. It is running. And there is no one at the controls. The lock is holding, but we have no idea how much longer the power will last, or what happens when it finally, inevitably, fails. The empty throne is not an accident. It is a job posting. A position created, defined, and left unfilled. To understand the prison, we must understand the position. Who was meant to sit there? The architecture gives us the job description. The seat is stone. It is unforgiving. It offers no comfort, only posture. You would sit bolt upright facing the tomb for hours, days, years. This is not a position of honor. It is a position of endurance, of monastic rigidity. The candidate required specific qualifications. First, immense spiritual fortitude. To be plugged into the circuit between Lucifer's cell and the demon-sealed tomb would scour the soul of a normal man empty in seconds. Second, profound theological understanding. Not just of Scripture, but of the enemy's Scripture, of the Goetic, of the hierarchy of hell. The warden needed to read the seals like a technician reads a gauge. Third, and this is the most disturbing, a complete absence of ambition. The one thing that could not sit on that throne was someone who wanted power. Because the throne is a conduit. It offers a direct tap into the oldest, most potent force of will ever contained. To want that power, to reach for it from that seat, would be to fuse yourself into the circuit, to become a permanent part of the machine. A failed warden wouldn't be fired, they would be consumed. The Church has a term for such a person, custos incurvatus, the bent guardian, the one who watches by becoming part of what they watch. History whispers of candidates. A Cistercian monk in the 12th century, said to have memorized the Goetic to better fight it, who vanished from his cell. A Borgia-era cardinal known for both ruthless politics and inexplicable acts of self-flagellation, who resigned his position and entered a sealed hermitage beneath the Vatican, never seen again. Were they tested? Did they fail? Or were they installed, and their silence is their success? The most compelling theory is that the position was never for a living person at all. The throne is a soul anchor. It was meant for a post-human consciousness, a saint who had shed their mortal coil, whose purified spirit could interface with the divine and infernal machinery without corruption. A ghost warden. This would explain the emptiness to physical eyes. The throne is occupied by something we cannot see. The silence in the room is the sound of a ghost doing its duty. If that is true, then the system is functioning as designed. There is a regulator in the circuit. The seals are being monitored. The prison is stable. And we have been looking at it all wrong. The horror is not a failure. The horror is a success so complete, so inhuman, that its very success chills the blood. The Vatican didn't just build a prison. They engineered an eternal, self-sustaining, post-mortem security system. The warden is a saint's soul, bent forever to the task of keeping a tomb locked, using Lucifer's own power to do it. That is the level of calculation we are dealing with. They out-engineered hell, using heaven's most precious resources as spare parts. We have spoken of the lock. Now we must speak of what it locks away. The small tomb. The lead and silver box wrapped in demonic signatures. Its size is specific. It is not symbolic. It is built to fit its contents. The contents are physical. They have dimensions. They have weight. We can rule out a body. A body decays. It changes. It would upset the delicate balance of the seals over centuries. The contents are static, inert, or perpetually stable. There are three possibilities, each more consequential than the last. Possibility 1. The relic. It is a physical object of Lucifer's former state, a fragment of his original angelic essence, a piece of his spear from the war in heaven, a vial of his light, extracted at the moment of his fall. It is a piece of him, but separate. Containing it separately prevents him from being whole. It is a metaphysical lever. If he ever breaks free, they destroy the relic, and he is forever diminished, a partial being. The seals are there because only demonic power can contain a thing of such pure, fallen divinity. The throne's warden monitors the relic's stability. This is the weapon theory. They keep his power source in the room next door. Possibility 2. The seed. It is not a piece of the past, but a kernel of the future. It is a condensed potential form of the Antichrist. Not a person, but the blueprint for one. The genetic and spiritual code, crystallized. The demon's seals are not there to keep it in, but to keep it dormant. They are a suppressant field, freezing the seed in a state of permanent potential. The throne's warden ensures the suppression field never wavers. This turns the entire anteroom into a refrigeration unit for the apocalypse. The tomb is a cold storage for the end of the world. Possibility 3. The key. It is none of these things. It is the actual physical key to Lucifer's main cell. The ultimate irony. The key to his chains is kept in the room outside his door, sealed with the names of his own lieutenants. He can see it through the walls with his perception. He knows it is there. He can feel its presence. His own subordinate's power holds the one thing that could free him. This is the deepest layer of psychological torture. The warden's job is to guard the key, not from thieves, but from the despair of the prisoner who knows exactly where it is and can never reach it. The system is designed to cultivate hopelessness as a fuel source. But there is a fourth possibility, a synthesis of all three. What if the tomb contains all of these? A relic that is also a seed that is also a key. A singular, concentrated object that is a piece of Lucifer, capable of growing into his successor, and which can also open his door. A trinity of damnation, the ultimate contingency. If the church falls, if the faith fails, if God's presence withdraws, the system has a backup plan. The seed grows, consumes the relic's power, becomes the heir, takes the key, and assumes control of the facility. The prison doesn't fail. It changes management. From God's prison to Lucifer's kingdom. The anteroom isn't the holding cell for a threat. It is the safe deposit box for the succession plan. They are not just keeping him locked up. They are keeping his replacement on ice in the room next door, in case they need to make a deal with a newer, younger Lucifer. We began with a room, a throne, a tomb. We have followed the architecture, the seals, the silence. We have theorized about relics, seeds, and keys. But to understand the antechamber, you must first understand what the Vatican itself believes is inside that box. Buried in the archives of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith is a report written after Lucifer's containment. It is not a story of prayer and victory. It reads, "The seals on the box aren't holy. They're the signatures of Lucifer's own generals, forced to guard it. His own army locks away his only heir." So we are left with the only facts that matter. The Vatican built a room for a throne no one sits on, and a tomb sealed with the names of demons. Their own records show they believe the tomb contains the essence of the Antichrist, carved from Lucifer at the moment of his imprisonment. A safeguard, an act of theological surgery. The throne was for a guardian who never arrived or no longer exists. The demonic seals are the only warden left, so we are left with a simple, terrifying equation. On one side of a wall, we have Lucifer. On the other, his perfected successor, the Antichrist. Between them, nothing but a fading oath in a silent room. The Vatican's entire purpose rests on a single, desperate gamble, that the entity in the box will remain, and that the names on the lid will hold. How long it remains contained, no one knows. For now, we can only hope the men in the Vatican know what they are doing. Because if they are wrong, it isn't just our faith that's in danger. It is our very existence.